Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Changing Tides podcast. In each episode, we invite guests to have honest conversations about their mental health journeys with the goal of destigmatizing mental health within the Asian American Pacific Islander community. Due to the nature of the podcast, we'll be discussing a variety of mental health topics and possibly triggering experiences. While we and the majority of our guests are not trained professionals, we encourage you to practice self-care while listening and seek professional guidance if you or a loved one is in need of support. With that said, let's start the episode.
Hi, my name is Ryan Lee, and I describe my mental health journey as ongoing.
Hello, and welcome to the Changing Tides podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Yonemura. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. With this month being AAPI Heritage Month and Mental Health Awareness Month, we thought that this guest would be a special one, and that's why you saw that this was an in-person interview in that little snippet that you might have seen if you're watching on YouTube. This is an in-person interview that I was so happy to be able to record at the beautiful Terasaki Budokan facility with the director of the facility. I thought it'd be special to be able to finish off this special month for Changing Tides with a special guest. Again, all of our guests are special, but I thought it'd be great to round it out with an in-person interview with an amazing person with an amazing goal. And he, unfortunately for me, whenever I play basketball against him, makes me look like a fool. So with that said, I'm so excited for you to see this in-person interview that I did with the Terasaki Budokan director, Ryan Lee. Ryan, thank you for coming onto the podcast. And as the viewer can see, if you're on YouTube, we're in person at the Terasaki Budokan with the director himself, Ryan. And Ryan, before I get into my questions about you and the facility and everything that's gone into it, I want to talk about this ongoing mental health journey.
Well, before I jump into that, I gotta say, I love the pearls. If I knew that you were gonna rock the pearls, I probably would have done something a little more extravagant.
Well, bro, you came out with the mustache and the Kobe's.
I did not do the mustache today either, but it's going for a more natural look.
Okay.
But about mental health,
Yeah.
It's something that, especially in the AAPI community, is often swept under the rug. As a child, I was always told to not show emotion. I played a lot of basketball and I would cry when I lose a game, and my dad would be on me, don't cry. And I'm an emotional person, and I think as I've gotten older, I've learned that showing your emotions, talking about some of the things that maybe culturally are not as accepted or not as talked about are important. Mm-hmm. And so really appreciate Changing Tides for tackling this, especially the space is a very dynamic and ever-changing space, and it's a tall task to set out, but every little bit matters, every little bit counts, and just really happy to be here.
Okay, well, tall tasks. We're talking about where we are right now. We'll get to that, but that's interesting because even back when I was, we're not that much of age difference.
I don't know.
But like when I was a kid, like it wasn't like as much on my parents, but like in sports. Mm-hmm. Starting at a young age, you're like, man, I gotta be like the guy, quote unquote. And you have to be like masculine, like it's all about like flexing is this whole thing. But you're right, like especially professional athletes now, they're opening up about mental health. So like the landscape's definitely ever growing and changing, but it's interesting to hear like for you, like in sports at a young age, it was like that for you. But I did do my research on you coming into this interview. I read up as much as I could.
Don't believe everything that you read, especially not the good things, okay?
I mean, no, there's a lot of good stuff. I'll get into it. But everything that you said was about the Budokan, and you rarely spoke about yourself. So, I think that does say something about you and how humble you are. I know this might be uncomfortable for you, but it does say something about you. So like, can you talk about like, where does this come from? You're so humble and modest, but like, where does that come from for you?
I would like to think I'm always working on being more humble and being more modest. And that's the truth. I think, you have to stay in that mindset. because it helps you maintain growth, and otherwise you get stagnant and you're just thinking about sustaining, and it's an okay place to be from time to time. But I think for me, I love the growth mindset, and I fell in love with that. Actually, really, to be honest, where it stemmed from, I fell in love with working with at-risk youth. So in a past life, I worked nonprofit in education, and we did experiential learning trips for at-risk youth, predominantly communities of color, marginalized youth, low-income families, and in that 8-year journey working with that demographic, I learned a hell of a lot more from them than they learned from me. You're talking about a kid who maybe has, let's say, is the age of a typical 11th grader, but has 9th grade credits, and is trying to work on academic recovery to catch up, has the emotional maturity of a 40-year-old because they've seen a family dynamic that, it would just blow me away. And then maybe the social maturity of a 10-year-old because they haven't ever been able to explore the social space. And so, I grew up in South Pasadena. I grew up in an upper middle class. My parents did a great job of making sure I knew the value of a dollar. I never got new shoes because I wanted them. I got new shoes because I needed them. But still, I got new shoes when I needed them.
Right.
A lot of families out there can't get new shoes and when they need them. And so for me, that 8 years spent working with that at-risk population, it really, it solidified my passion for serving underserved communities and using the privilege that I am so fortunate to have to help out the less fortunate. And so I think that helps keep me grounded. I remember stories, I could sit here for hours and tell you about stories that just, shook me to my core. And I really internalized those stories, and it really helps me, again, keeps me grounded, and makes sure that I really am able to soak these opportunities in, to appreciate them, to take the most out of every day, every second that we have here. Look at this beautiful space. This is what I get to call work. And so, I think that the humility and the humility really stems from my work with at-risk youth.
And I want to ask you more about that, but even going before then, because again, I'm asking you about yourself. You're putting it onto these other people already, dude. Like it all goes into that, but I that's not a bad thing, of course. It's a good thing, but
very JA.
True, very JA. But I want to talk about your love for basketball. Where did that start? And I know you did nonprofit work in basketball, with the same communities that you're talking about. So when did your love for basketball start, and how does it now bring you here to be the first director of the Terasaki Budokan, which the space isn't just basketball, but look at what's around us. It's this huge, amazing basketball facility. So where did this love for basketball start?
That's a great question. I actually didn't even really have a choice, to be honest. My grandpa, who has his, my grandparents were one of the co-founders of the Pasadena Bruins organization. Wow. That was probably in the late 70s, maybe early 80s. I could be misspeaking there. But his banner is represented here at Budokan. And it's kind of come full circle. My mom and all of her siblings, my aunts and uncles, played for the Bruins, and so naturally, when I was of age, I started playing Pasadena Bruins.
Can I pause you there?
Yes.
I hated playing the Bruins. The Bruins in my age group, there's this one dude who he started out as the prototypical big guy along with me, because big guys for Asians were 5'10".
Yeah.
But then he grows and he's like 6'2", 6'3". Oh
wow.
And then he gets this jumper. I can't guard the guy anymore.
That's tough. What was his name?
I can't even remember. But Gabe and Kenji, who they remember, they know him. They played north-south with him.
Okay.
I was not on that level, but anyway.
But he torched you.
Oh, he did. But anyway.
You know what though? It's about those memories, win or lose. You know, that's what competition in basketball is all about. But going back to my love, I fell in love with competition. It teaches you so much about yourself. Teaches you so much about others. I coached basketball for 8 years at South Pass, and what I was really preaching there was how do we use the game as just a medium to learn lessons that you can apply outside of the court, whether it's in your social life, your academic life, your post-secondary education life, if you wanted to move on to college or move on to a professional career. How are you using the accountability that you learned at practice, the work ethic that you learned in the weight room in the off season, the resilience that you learned after a tough loss? How are you using those to build healthy relationships in your workplace, with your family, with your friends, etc.? So I quickly latched on to just that competitive element and really learning how to leave it all out there with your team and then walking away from the game, regardless of winning or losing on the scoreboard, knowing that you're a winner if you went out there and you tried your hardest every day. And so yeah, that I think that journey for me has manifested in so many ways. Initially, it was just as a player. I started coaching and refereeing probably around high school. I coached like a third grade Bruins team.
Right.
I think it's only right to go back to the communities that help raise you and make sure that you're enhancing that experience for the next generation of youth. So I went back and did some coaching. I was refereeing. I did some scorekeeping. Just try to stay around the game as much as possible. And then in 2014, Curtis Takimoto and I co-founded Not Your Average Basketball Camp, which I'll refer to as NYABC, which is a basketball camp for special needs families. And there's no age limit. We had served as young as 5 and seniors with special needs. And I think that was a really great intergenerational space. And that honestly really opened a lot of doors for me in the way that I approached the game. I saw, one, providing access and opportunity for a community that never got access to the gym. I mean, I was so blessed to just have practice once a week. When I was coaching, I was in the gym every single day. These kids, they don't get an opportunity to be in the gym. No one's reaching out and telling them, hey, you come to this open gym, or why don't you come play with us, So Curtis and I decided we need to create this space intentionally to cater to that demographic. And then I think what was a beautiful dichotomy there was the pairing of the participant with a volunteer high school coach. So, high school aged coach, not a high school coach. So I'm taking kids from my varsity South Pass team, and they're coaching now a kid with special needs.
Wow.
And I think that moment is so powerful for both sides, mainstreaming, working with people with different abilities. And for the high school varsity team, they're so focused on wins and losses and competition. And like you said, the machismo, being the man, hitting the game winner, breaking somebody's ankles, getting to the rack and one, flexing. And the day at NYABC was about, it's a win if the player is on the court and rolling the basketball back and forth. That's probably more physical activity that they're doing or in a day-to-day setting. And so it really reminds the players who are in competition all the time to take a step back, to enjoy themselves. And that to me was the most beautiful thing about NYABC. So I'm still looking forward to bringing NYABC here to Budokan. Right. We haven't been able to do it in the pandemic, but I think it goes to show the true multi-use and diversity of the space.
So with that, I want to. You kind of led me into a different question, but we'll get back to all of it. But like, when you became director, which I want to get to that origin story, but like, you were the director when this place wasn't even open or fully built yet.
Yeah.
And then you get hit with the pandemic.
Yeah.
So with that in mind about the pandemic and like this, like bringing NYBC here, like what was that period of waiting for this place to be built? It's built, and then pandemic. What was that like for you and the staff here?
A lot of words and emotions come to mind. Patience is something that was necessary. It's not a strong suit of mine, but patience. It was difficult. There's no way around it. A lot of these businesses are pivoting. Word of the pandemic, right? Right. Pivoting, navigating new uncharted waters. If you're a restaurant or small business in Little Tokyo and you primarily were a dine-in, now all of a sudden you're looking at delivery and online ordering and takeout. Right. And if your business model is not ready for that, then that shift is taxing on the owners, taxing on the visitor, the customers, taxing on your team. And so for us to not even have a business model,
Right.
I mean, we had one on paper, and we were very confident in it, obviously, over the 20, 25 years of the life of planning for the ops of this project. But until you're actually here and you implement it, it's just kind of ideas on a page. And so to pivot before even implementing your original plan, it was tough. A lot of times we were building the plane as we were flying it, and it was scary as hell. But I think really what kept our team grounded was our faith in the project and our faith in ourselves, in our team, really. I love the team that we've built here at Budokan. Our ops team and the capital campaign team and LTSC have been unbelievably supportive in the work that they've carried out through the pandemic, using Budokan, as a hub to dispatch volunteers for the LT Eats program, which provided meals for seniors, discounted meals for seniors, while also patronizing small businesses in the community and giving volunteers a reason to come get out of the house and be involved.
Right.
So, it's a win-win-win program, and that's something that, was really engaging, and I definitely volunteered at that. We had a dispatch center here. We were administering vaccines to seniors in the pandemic. Something I never thought we would be doing is administering vaccines in the gymnasium. But in a way, it allowed us to explore a lot of these uses that might have initially seemed tangential to our mission, but now have become a core piece of who and what we stand for at Budokan. So it's kind of blown the roof off of this place in terms of what we can do here, right? A voting center, we're going to do that again. We were doing the vaccines. We did a round of boosters in December. We were talking about doing a silent disco here. Who would have thought? Silent disco. Dodgeball league, pickleball, those were not in the business plan, but those have arose as needs from the community. And I think a community center, the truest community center serves the needs of the community.
Right.
So we need to be amazing listeners and hear kind of the voices that often go unheard here, and make sure that we're catering to those populations that would love to see those types of unique activities here.
Yeah. Because that's like one of the first things I was thinking about, like when this place opened, was, man, what horrible timing. That was a bunch of businesses, but for you guys, like, what horrible timing. But then the different ways that you utilize this space were ways that you wouldn't normally expect.
That's right.
Like, especially when it's such a state-of-the-art, wonderful, like, gym, like, not downscaling, but turning it into a totally different use of a vaccine location, or like a hub for LT Eats. It's it does like open up your perspective, I guess, in a way that you wouldn't normally expect. I didn't really think about it that way.
100%.
But getting back to now you becoming director here, back in 2019, right?
2019, yeah.
So how did that come about for you? And what was that process for you to become the first director here?
Exhilarating. I've told people in the past that if I were to have dreamt up a dream job for myself, it would have fallen short of what I get to do here at Budokan. And I guess that's, again, going back to, there's not a day that I don't feel lucky and blessed, and that's where the humility plays a huge part of my work here, because I am so lucky and I am so blessed, and I understand that. We're sitting in my office right now. This is it's a beautiful. It's a little small, but we make it work. It's just 14,000 square feet, no big deal. But I initially in a weird way, I've been preparing for this job all of my life. I was really involved in Little Tokyo and in the JA community as a kid. So I would come here, I would get Yumagawa Yaki from Mitsuru Cafe with my mom. It'd come in the little, we'd watch them flip it over. Always get the fresh ones, come out in that little foil pack. And, there'd be 4 or 5, and I'd sit in the back of the car eating them on the way home, driving up the 110. And so I made memories here as a kid. I participated in Junior YBA. I was on Southern District Cabinet. So I was building a network here. I didn't even know it. Rising Stars participated in that. If Kizuno was around, I would have been in that. I would have been an NCI intern. I would have done the summer camps. I would have done it all because I just loved what those organizations brought and gave to me. It gave me an opportunity to explore my cultural identity. It gave me an opportunity to be passionate about the rich history and culture here in Little Tokyo, and not just here in Little Tokyo, but also my Pasadena Bruins and Pasadena Buddhist Temple community up there as well. I remembering polishing the benches, in the temple with my grandparents. And at the time, I would just do it because I was spending time with them, and you don't realize like all the sweat equity that you're putting into these places and how deep of a connection you're making, and all the social capital that comes along with it, right? Building these relationships with the people that you're brushing shoulders with, that you may have polished a bench together with. Now I'm asking for letters of recommendation as I move into the next phase of my life. And so, all of those relationships, they played a role in kind of me becoming the director here. I coached Yonsei basketball. I was involved as a player. And so just kind of being plugged in to the JA experience here in Southern California was really key. I think a big thing too was, I believe it was in 2017 or 2018, NYABC donated 100% of our profits from a clinic to Budokan.
Wow.
To help, it was like a pea in the ocean. Let's be honest. It was probably, $500 max, but every little bit counts.
It's something.
And, yeah, and I remember, seeing Kim come out, and she was so appreciative. And at the time, we knew each other, but she was that capital campaign team. Hats off to them because they grounded out for so many years. But that kind of got us re-engaged in the project, and then I had just gotten the varsity coaching job at South Pass. So I remember in my interview, I said, I think you're looking for a unicorn. You're looking for somebody who's got experience with at-risk youth, which I had at Pathways, working with in experiential education. You're looking for somebody who's plugged into the JA community, which I naturally fell in love with, so you couldn't get me away even if you wanted to. And somebody who comes with the facility management, like with the varsity program, the basketball aspect. And I told him, I said, I think I'm as close to that unicorn as you're going to get. And I guess here I am. So I should remove this hat and show everybody my little, my purple mane. But it's just very lucky, very fortuitous. And, my message going out to the next generation, because I have a passion for education, right? Coaching and working in that field for so long. My advice, unsolicited advice, albeit, but my advice would be never miss an opportunity to build a relationship. Nowadays there's so much emphasis on education, and you got to have the hardware. Don't get me wrong. You don't have to, but it sure helps to have that. But what's most important is having an established network. Making sure that you have healthy relationships, both personally and professionally.
Right.
And that ultimately is going to lead you to a more fulfilling and happy either personal or professional career. So.
One thing that strikes me from what you just said is the importance of community and fostering relationships, and when did that become something instilled in you? Have you always kind of been naturally like an extrovert, or was it something that your family gave you, or what is it about community, JA or not, that has drawn you into different people?
That's a good question. I don't think I was naturally extroverted. I'm definitely extroverted now. I remember when I was young, I must have been 5. I really wanted an Orange Julius. I don't know if anybody's Orange Julius fans out there. It's old thing.
It's a
nostalgic 90s thing. Yeah, nostalgic 90s thing. Anyway, my mom said, if you want it, you could order it. And so I told her, no, I don't want it anymore. I didn't even want to talk to the person who's behind the counter. I was so shy. And she goes, no, you said you wanted it. You're going to order it. So I was lucky to just have, supportive parents who really pushed me to get out of my shell. I think sports also played a big role in it. Basketball is a team sport, so you have to be communicative, right? And if you're not communicating, then you're not going to win. You got to work as one unit, not 5 players out on the court. And so it kind of gave me a voice, and then coaching, obviously. I think that in that realm, you have to be vocal, you have to be a role model, and use your voice in a positive way. The words that you say, they're the most important things that you have. They create feeling, they create emotion, meaning. Put it this way, this whole podcast is based on what I'm saying to you, you know, and that in itself, the word is the most powerful thing that you have. So I think, realizing that and using that just became something that I fell in love with, Yeah.
we're taking a quick break to introduce Anchor, the sponsor of this podcast. Anchor is free, first and foremost, which is amazing. Who doesn't love free? And you can record everything directly into Anchor. It's so easy to use Anchor. That's how you are listening to this podcast, whether it's Spotify, Apple, the Anchor website. You're listening to it because I uploaded this podcast episode to Anchor. If you want to start your own podcast, I highly recommend Anchor. It's made this whole process so easy. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So I've been saying, like I want to talk about you and know more about you. I still do, but talking about the importance of this space and what it means to like how all your jobs before this have kind of led to this point, and this is like the dream job that you couldn't have even dreamed up. But I don't think many people besides like maybe the employees of LTSC and the longtime supporters know the importance of this facility and the literal decades that have gone into it. So I know there's a lot of years to cover here, but could you give like a brief history of the Terasaki Budokan and what it actually symbolizes to Little Tokyo?
I would have to start the story at World War II. Go back to the internment camps. My grandpa and my grandma, who are represented here, who started the Bruins, they experienced that. And coming out of the war, they were not accepted. Right? They were told to get rid of their Japanese names and take on traditional American names like Kevin or Chad, Michael,
right,
or Matthew.
Yeah, exactly.
Ryan.
Yeah.
My middle name's James, and that's after my great grandfather. And well, in doing that, you're kind of losing a lot of that cultural lineage and that the richness that I think people are seeking nowadays. So out of that came these community basketball leagues as a way for people to stay connected.
Right.
It was kind of the glue or the bonding agent that gave folks a reason to get together and to play with one another, because Japanese Americans weren't just invited to go play in these rec leagues with other kids at that time. Fast forward 80 years, it's still the glue. It's still a bonding agent for a lot of the JA folks here who are involved in the athletic community. And it's not the only, there's a lot of JA diaspora or Japanese diaspora here in the nation even that don't play sports. And,
right.
That's it. But for those who do, the J leagues are something that's like, wow. I mean, both you and I play in the J leagues, and you have vivid memories of getting scored on. Those are the experiences that we want to pass on to our kids. And so, well, not getting scored on. Hopefully, you're doing the scoring.
Yeah.
But
every now and then.
Yeah. There you go. But so. I guess the point being is that the basketball or the sports leagues, basketball, baseball, volleyball, those were kind of a way to keep the community alive, keep the community engaged, and keep the community together. So what better place to bring them together than here in Little Tokyo, a community that faces so much gentrification, so many outside pressures. It's really, really difficult to stop the Starbucks and the McDonald's and the Subways from encroaching on this community space that should be reserved for cultural institutions, mom and pop businesses. And so that, I think, is where the dream of having a rec center here in Little Tokyo began. You can use it as a hub, as a space for people to gather, to play, but more importantly, after they come here, they can eat, shop, and play, patronize local businesses, and really ultimately invest in things going on here. So that began in the 90s, early 90s. There's a big push, and takes a long time, to gain community control of city-owned land, especially here in an urban environment. Downtown. I mean, I think at the time in 2011, this was an $8 million parcel, and the city turned it over to LTSC with a promise to build the facility here for $1 a year land lease for 50 years, because they saw the impact that a recreation center could have, not only in Little Tokyo, but for Skid Row, Echo Park, Chinatown, and the rest of downtown, Arts District and the rest of downtown. So, it took a long time, 2011, till we finished construction in 2020. We raised $34 million, which, I mean, it's unbelievable. every year the project costs went up. The capital campaign team, Scott Ito in particular, he always makes a joke, like he hit his fundraising goal 4 times. He's like, all right, I'm done. Looks at the project cost, it's 3x of what it was, 2 years ago. And so, but all good things are worth waiting for. And I've been saying that about our grand opening, about this facility, and now you can really see the positive impact that it's having. We have a dedicated brochure. It's called Play Little Tokyo. Be sure to grab it on the way if you're ever here at the facility, but it highlights legacy and small businesses. It has a map of Little Tokyo. There's advertising space that we've provided for free.
Nice.
And that's part of our mission here, is to serve the community. A rising tide lifts all the boats. So if Little Tokyo is hurting but Budokan is thriving, that's not going to be the case, right? If Little Tokyo is hurting, we're hurting. If we're thriving, Little Tokyo is thriving. And so I think it's important to look at the ecosystem in its entirety. And so that rec center plugs in perfectly to the rest of the ecosystem that is already here in Little Tokyo.
And so a couple things I want to add on. So first is when I first started playing in the FOR and all these leagues, I didn't know the cultural relevance at the time. So when I told the kids, I played basketball on the weekends, whatever, I'd be like, oh, it's just something like club basketball league. I felt like weird saying Asian basketball.
Yes.
But once you learn about the cultural relevance of World War II, the concentration camps, and the impact of why they were made, it's something that I wore on my sleeve. It's no, I'm proud to play in this JA league and make these friends and form these relationships and make these memories. So I'm really glad that you shed light on that, because I think, let's say there's a kid listening to this, or, maybe some kids played in the league and they didn't know the cultural relevance. It's a great way to share it on a platform. But to go on to, the relevance of this place, and I'm glad you connected it all the way back. But one thing that Margaret Shimada and Mike Murase, who have been longtime LTSC employees, and one thing that they really told me about this place when I got hired at LTSC was the Budokan is it's a footprint. It's to say we're here to stay.
Yeah.
Because there have been times when Little Tokyo looked like it could have vanished in the past.
100%.
And for me, that's a weird thing to imagine about not having Little Tokyo, but this is saying we're here to stay.
Yeah.
So rec center, it's a unifying place, but it's also a symbol of Little Tokyo, Japanese culture in LA. It's all here to stay. So with all of what you said, I try to throw in a little bit of extra context, but just knowing the history of this place, what does it mean to you, this full circle thing with your grandparents, to be the director here?
That's what it means. Just a sigh, big sigh. To be honest, it means that there's still a lot of work to be done. I think that having a place like this and celebrating it, we just had our grand opening a year and a half after it was supposed to take place, and that kind of tied that up nicely in a bow. But now the real work begins. The work of making sure that we're engaging the market rate residents here in the brand spanking new market rate housing, and how do we convert them into healthy community members who are showing up to community meetings, investing in the community here, building a family and staying, getting involved, whether it's here at JACCC, Go for Broke, National Education Center, JANM, some of the other East-West players. I could go on and on and on, but patronizing businesses here. So, to me, what does it mean? It means that we still have a hell of a lot of work and uphill battle, I would say. And it's a good place to be, though. It's a good place to know that you have work to do, and that you're not resting on your laurels.
Right.
That's in basketball, you call it a trap game, right? Or like a hangover. You come off of a big win, and you slump the next day. Well, we can't have a hangover. There's no time for that. Now it's time to double down. Now it's time to put our, the pedal to the metal and make sure that we're using the momentum that we've gained from grand opening and from these 20, 25 years of grassroots, campaigning and marching in the streets, and we capitalize on that now by converting those folks into program participants, into renters of the space, into organizers of free and open to the public community events, volunteers, donors, you name it. So yeah, when I think about it like that, I got to get off this podcast and go send some emails. And, no, just kidding. Of course, I can always make time for changing tides. This is such an important, it's such an important piece.
Appreciate it. One thing that's surprised me as of late is the like cultural side of things outside of like JA, but like you're making waves in like Undefeated. Like you guys are listed on the Undefeated like list of LA gems. Like my buddies who like I got Union LA, like they come to the Little Tokyo Table Tennis Club, and like in the pop culture side, Terasaki Budokan starting to make its name, not just with like the JA community and like the older folks, but it's pretty cool to see the stuff that's happening with you guys. But whether you like it or not, you are kind of the official face of this place. Mustache and all.
Yeah, unfortunately.
No, you wear it with pride. You know you do. Is there any pressure with that, of being like a public figure, quote unquote, in that way of this place?
Pressure. I don't know if it's, I mean, yes, I guess the easy answer is yes, but I don't know if pressure is the right word.
Okay.
Maybe like a responsibility. Pressure to me feels like something that's like you don't want, right? There's a negative connotation to that. No one really, well, I guess some people like mama mentality, maybe Kobe loved the pressure, and maybe that, I'm not telling you I'm Kobe, but just a little bit, he just learned a lot of his moves from me, but
that's fair.
But yeah, I guess, if you look at it like pressure, it's something that you're maybe trying to escape, or maybe it's something that you're trying to rise to, but I like to think of it more as a responsibility, and growing into that responsibility is important. And so I think the pressure really is on the community, if you want to use, the responsibility, right? Like you just mentioned Undefeated and Little Tokyo Table Tennis and the Far East Lounge programs, the senior programs that we have, Mikasa, which is our after-school youth program that's free, senior programs are free. So you're talking about all these uses here. And really, when you talk about, okay, there's a lot of pressure on this place to succeed, well, that pressure is on all of us here. It's up to the community to come activate this space. We're sitting in this space right now. It's beautiful, right? But it's only beautiful when people are in it. In the pandemic, it was so boring here. And that's just, I loved it. It was like, wow, this place is so beautiful. I can't wait till people are here. I can't wait till Gatorade gets spilled on the floors. I can't wait till there's shoe prints on the walls. I can't wait till there's toilet paper all over the bathroom. I say that now, but I was the one cleaning it all up. But that's the truth, And so I think, when we talk about the pressure, of course, I think head of the snake, but we have a very flat organization, very collaborative team. And so in that sense, like, we really trust in our partnerships, in our relationship building, whether it's with the facilitator of Little Tokyo Table Tennis, the Undefeated team, the Far East Lounge facilitators, Mikasa, resident services team at LTSC. Those are the ones who have really stepped up and I guess in a way have taken all that pressure off of our team and off of me, because they all have done such a phenomenal job of activating the space. And I think, once people get in here and see kind of the grandeur of it all, it's really my job to just shut up and get out of the way and not talk them into not using the space, it'll sell itself. And so I like to hear myself talk, so I just got to make sure I don't talk too much, and they'll walk out of here and they'll definitely want to come back. So
talk away on the podcast.
I know.
But you talked about the grandeur of this place, and we just had the grand opening.
I see what you did there. That's why they pay you the big bucks, huh?
I mean, we get by. But, to see the grand opening happen 2 years after the construction completed, 3 years after you're appointed, you have this grand opening in 2022. Was that like a day of, was that the milestone where you're like, okay, this is great, but now the real work starts? Or was it just a day where you're able to take it in and enjoy the fact that like we're finally here?
I soaked it all in. I
Good.
loved every single second of it. I made a joke the day we finished. I said, all right, let's do it again next year. It was so much fun. I think for a long time our team had visualized it, and we knew what it could be. And even then, it exceeded our wildest expectations. And that really goes to show you the amount of community support, kind of like what I said. There may be some pressure on me as a director, but the community has done a great job of taking that pressure off of me. And you can tell by the unbelievable warmth and love and support that was here at grand opening. The energy and the vibe was unparalleled, and I'm confident that we can recreate that, in another event or different events even.
Right.
But everything happens for a reason, right? So in the pandemic, we talked about being tangential, those tangential uses, which have now kind of opened our view about what can be offered here, what we could do here. And I think the benefit of the silver lining of having to wait a year and a half for grand opening is that we were able to launch programs, we were able to build relationships. And so instead of pulling on other folks to kind of, come and be a part of the celebration, we looked inward and said, this Sho Tokyo Kendo Dojo uses our gym on Friday nights to practice. So let's have them perform outside. We're thinking about launching a hula program. So let's have that hula facilitator, the Kumu, the teacher, let's have him bring his halal out here. We had an Urban Voices project, a Skid Row choir and music group.
Right.
They had their coffee house concert here. Let's have them back out here to perform during grand opening. Yonsei basketball has made a home here. CBO and JAO let's have them play here and showcase kind of the youth sports component. So we had I think it was over 300 total entertainers, whether it's kids playing basketball, volleyball, martial arts, performing music, song, dance, whatever it may have been. Over 20 groups, I think over 300 performers throughout the day. And just pure elation. We had a ribbon cutting the day before, and we were here till maybe about 7 or 8 p.m. setting up for grand opening, and we had pretty early call time on Saturday morning, and someone had asked me, like, you gonna be okay tomorrow? I think it was Friday night setting up for a grand opening, and I said, I'm planning on running on pure elation. And I did. And it got me through the day. And again, like if we could recreate that, I would. I would do that work forever if it meant what it meant to the community to come out, have a space, catch up with old friends. I haven't seen you in 5 years. Can you believe this place? Why are you here? My daughter's dancing in the hula. Oh, that's wonderful. My son, he's playing basketball right after this. We should go and grab some food in Little Tokyo. I mean, those conversations were abundant here. And so again, while our team could visualize it, it was great to see that vision play out and give everybody an opportunity to enjoy that same thing that we had been seeing for years and years and years.
And it's amazing that you named the groups that you named as in the community ones, because you didn't even mention like Jerry West, Sakura Kokuma, like bigger names. Like, of course, all credit to them, but like you mentioned the community members first, and I think that speaks to you and what this space means and the community forward aspect. So you're really practicing what you preach in the community aspect, and I think that's amazing. But there's that grand opening was just last weekend from when we're recording this. But what is next for not only the Budokan but for you?
I'll be on vacation through the end of the year. For Budokan, our goal for grand opening was to generate momentum, right? Get people here, get them to see the facility. Wow, we could have a concert out there. Wow, we could host our basketball tournament here. We could have a board retreat in the community room. By the way, shameless plug, I forgot to mention J-Town Taiko, our karate program, the partnership with Japangelis, the small businesses who came to Ven, the Aze and Koraku. Thank you so much for all of your help. And anybody else who I may have left off, I'm sorry.
There's so many. There's
shameless plug, yes.
There's 300.
Yes, that's right. Sakura, Jerry, really appreciative of you too. So again, anybody else I left off, I'm sorry. But our goal for grand opening was to build momentum. And I think it's safe to say we've accomplished that goal. So it's funny because we're 3 times as busy as before grand opening. We see 5 to 10 inquiries come in a day about use for the space, about when are you going to launch the youth taiko program? My kids can't wait. They've been waiting ever since they saw the J-Town Taiko Club perform on the plaza at grand opening. When's the hula class going to be? What about free yoga classes? So we're looking at about maybe another 3 to 5 program launches before the end of the year. Not to mention our regularly scheduled programming, like our summer camps moving into our 2nd year, our Budokan leagues moving into our 3rd year, or 3rd season, sorry, our volleyball tournaments moving into their 2nd year, looking into launching volleyball leagues. So the momentum has been built, and it's funny because for a long time we were saying, all right, once grand opening happens, we'll just be able to take a breath and relax, and we definitely caught our breath and we celebrated, and we relished in the moment, because otherwise those moments become very fleeting, and you just are on to the next. So we definitely enjoyed it.
Good.
But that time has come and gone, and now it's time to get back to work. So for me personally, this might be a little too much, but just got married. So that was, one of the most beautiful days. I got married in August, but we had our wedding reception actually here at Budokan. Shameless plug. Great wedding venue, phenomenal staff. There'll be promotional, assets from our wedding, pictures and videos and things like that uploaded on our website. But it was a beautiful space. Shout out to my partner Courtney for doing all the decor, and she built out all the centerpieces, and she just really had a strong vision. So you'll get to see some pictures about that, but just had that on April 2nd. So March 12th, grand opening, biggest event in my professional career to date. April 2nd, less than 3 weeks after, or three to 4 weeks after, biggest event in my personal life, hands down, again, to date, thinking about family and buying a house. So, but that was a hell of a time for me. The beginning of 2022, like pent up, from the last 2-3 years, and pent up demand for the last 3 decades for Budokan. But then to have that and just kind of going to be going on a honeymoon soon, just to really spend some quality time with each other before we start thinking about, starting a family. And if we could be so lucky, maybe we could have little Courtneys and Ryans running around here, playing basketball or participating in the dance classes or some of the cultural activities here. That would be amazing, phenomenal.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So many big things. And also, I don't know why I said the grand opening was last weekend. I don't know why.
It's close enough. It felt like last weekend.
It really does feel like it was last weekend.
It does.
Like
last weekend, last month, same.
I don't know why I said last weekend. Thank you for not making me sound dumb on my own podcast.
You're all good. You did that on your own.
You're right. But before we get to the quick fire round, I just have some quick ones for you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I just want to thank you. Also thank Changing Tides for all the work that they do in the community. I mentioned, it's a tall task, and a lot of people dance around those tougher conversations, right? The ones that people don't want to have, the ones that make you uncomfortable, the ones that are fierce and tense sometimes, but so necessary. And I really applaud Changing Tides for tackling that space head on. They got great leadership in you and Margaret and the CT crew over there. And, shout out to Cortland, who helped actually on the Budokan team. And I know she's probably still involved with Changing Tides in some capacity. If she's not, shame on you. We need to get you back in the community. I just want to thank Changing Tides for having me here. And, if you ever need anything from us at Budokan or from me personally, please don't hesitate to reach out. And that goes for anybody listening here today too, being a community center. That's what we're here for. We're here for the community.
That is on record, so we're going to hold you to it.
There you go. Yep.
But thank you, and quick fire round.
Okay.
If you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready.
So you're talking about basketball. I know you hit the game winner on the grand opening day.
Yeah.
But
scripted night before.
Stop it. I saw the footage. That was not scripted.
I said Steve Nagano, no. Scott Ito, no. Ryan Lee hits game winner. Yeah, okay, let's do it.
Dude, I saw the footage. That couldn't have been scripted. It's crazy. But you are a hooper. I played against you, Ryan. It sucks to guard you.
No, not at all.
You're too shifty. I don't know what it is about you, but What pro do you think you play or plays most like you? Not
Plays
what pro
most
do you,
like me.
so let's make sure that's clear. Not pro do you think you play like, what pro plays like you?
Who moves well off ball and is not athletic and has an okay jump shot but can't play defense, got no bunnies. Let's go with Kevin Durant.
Low key.
No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe not that athleticism.
JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, LeBron James, Kyrie Irving. I don't know if you've heard of any of them. I like I said earlier, Kobe modeled his game after mine.
Very true.
Sorry to give you such a sarcastic and funny answer.
No,
but,
honestly, KD isn't far off.
No,
you get to your spots.
I get to the spot, yeah.
You get to your spots, and you're kind of unstoppable.
I like that.
You're too modest. But would you rather be able to shoot like Steph or dunk like Ja?
In this day and age, unfortunately, it's got to be shoot. Everybody's got to have a strap, and it's so wild to see the stretch four coming out.
Yeah. Big
men who are 6'10" hitting the corner three at a high rate. It's like basketball has changed.
Yeah.
The value of the 3-point shot has skyrocketed, and so and I'm a shooter too, so got to say Steph Curry.
That's fair. That's fair. I know you said your honeymoon is coming up. I don't know if you're going to go here for your honeymoon, but what is your favorite place to travel?
I'm gonna have to say somewhere where I have not been before.
Okay.
I think I've been to Japan a couple times. Very lucky and blessed to go with the Yonsei program.
Right.
Highly recommend checking it out. It's an amazing program, cultural exchange, and so much more than just basketball. It's really an experience of a lifetime, which is their slogan. But to go back to Japan, would it be amazing? Hell yeah. Would it be as amazing as going somewhere I've never been that might not be quote unquote as amazing as Japan is? No, because I think, in this life you got one shot at it, and I try not to be boring and routine because that's naturally where I fall. I'm a routine kind of guy, but getting outside of that is important. Having that growth mindset, growth happens just outside your comfort zone, right? So Japan, to me, because I've been a couple times, would be comfortable. I would love to go to another continent, maybe Africa, South America, Central America, Antarctica. What does that have to offer? I don't know if anyone's going there nowadays, but maybe that would be a little lower on the list.
Okay.
But just somewhere new, I think.
Very cool.
I'll ask you, what about you? Where do you want to go?
I'm the opposite. I went to Japan once. I loved it, but I only want to go to Japan. Like if I'm going to travel, or back to Chicago because I love Chicago.
Yeah, you went to DePaul, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I like Chicago.
Chicago's really.
It's
I
cool.
could go on and on.
I'm a big city guy, so I love Chicago, New York, LA, Tokyo.
Yeah. But yeah, I would go. My next, if I were to splurge on a trip, it'd be Japan.
Okay.
So, what is your favorite Little Tokyo restaurant? If you could pick one.
They closed in the pandemic.
Oh, really?
It was Ebisu.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I love their karaage. It was like happy hour all the time there.
Really?
It's like I'd show up at 11:30 on a Wednesday for lunch. It's like, oh yeah, we got happy hour. Here's the, discounted sushi. And, taco wasabi was really good. Anyway, now I am on the search for a new favorite spot. I mean, you have your favorites like Suehiro, Mitsuru Sushi and Grill. Aze is always great. I also like exploring, Budokan, thinking about Little Tokyo, it's very on the west end, right? But we're also Skid Row adjacent, Grand Central Market's right here.
Oh, right.
There's Little Llama on the backside of us, which is, literally, if we walk straight out this door, if there was a door, if we walk straight out here, it's less than 100 yards on this side. Yeah. So making sure that we're exploring the full radius here has been nice. Senor Fish right here, catered our wedding. So, but yeah, I would have to say Ebisu, which closed. So on the prowl, on the search for a new one.
Gotcha. I'm so sorry.
I know, it sucks. And I like Aloha Cafe too.
What has been the coolest or your favorite Budokan event so far, if you could name one?
It's hard to top grand opening.
Okay.
But I think seeing CBO in here for the first time. There's always been a dream of having kids walking around Little Tokyo in their jerseys.
Right.
And so to come in and watch CBO play their season here. JAO and CYC I think are going to be starting up again in the summer. So to have young boys and young girls playing in the JA leagues here in Little Tokyo, going to enjoy probably Somi Somi, I would assume, or Sugetsudo,
Right.
or Japangelist afterwards. Oh, gives me the chills.
Yeah.
You know, I would have loved to play here.
Oh, man.
So, yep.
After playing in some of like the dustiest, like,
yeah.
not even wood floors
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah, I would have loved to play here
Yep.
too. If you could invite 5 dinner guests, dead or alive, who would they be?
Ooh, wee. This is gonna hit home, but I didn't get to spend as much time with Dean as I really would have liked. He chewed me up and spit me out in my first interview. I remember, and I'm gonna just leave it at him because I'm not gonna go into the other 4. Can't even think of the other 4. But sitting here in this facility, talking about Budokan, talking about community, talking about Little Tokyo, it only feels right that I would sit down with Dean and just get to enjoy his company. I remember it was my first interview for the job, and I sat down in his office with Mike and Scott. And he asked me if I had any fundraising experience, and I didn't have that much. You know, I had like maybe a couple $1,000 here and there for South Pasadena, and so I kind of bullshitted him for a little bit. And at the end of it, he goes, "So you don't really have any fundraising experience, do you?" I said, "No, you're right, Dean. I don't really, but I rely on the team, and I know LTSC has a great fundraising team. They've been doing it for a long time." But he just was a straight shooter in that sense, and our time together was so short, and I just would have loved to learn so much from him. To pick his brain, to chat him up about not only his professional pursuits here, but what he loves to do on the weekends, and what his family life is like, and talk about his younger years, on the East Coast. And he just has this intrigue, and there's not a day that goes by here at this facility where I don't think he continues to give back to the community. So, that would be my answer.
I didn't get to meet Dean because I came in late, but from everything I've heard, great leader for the LTSC team.
Yeah, and these are coming from people who have led other organizations, right? Yeah. Saying that, wow, this guy was the best leader that I've ever worked with. So, But I remember walking out of that first interview like, well, there goes that job. That was fun.
Here we are now, right?
Yeah, and here we are. So I guess I must have not messed it up too bad. But he chewed me up and spit me out, and it was a good experience. Though.
Good. To round it out, what would the title of your autobiography be?
Autobiography. The mustache that precedes him.
Wow. There you have it, folks. The mustache that precedes him.
There you are.
Well, Ryan, thank you for the first in-person interview of this podcast, and for your time.
Thank you so much, and hope everybody enjoyed watching, and I'll catch you at Budokan sometime sooner or later.
Indeed. Thank you so much to Ryan for joining me on the podcast today. Great guest, great guy. Love talking to him and hearing more about him. I've only played basketball with him prior to this, had conversations here and there, but to really get to know him a little bit more was really special. So if you enjoyed this episode, you can subscribe to our show for more episodes that release on every other Tuesday, and give us a rating or a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you would like to support our show and help us grow, you can do so with a donation at the link at the bottom of the episode description. To hear more about Changing Tides, follow us on Instagram at LTSC_Changing Tides, or check out our webpage, thechangingtides.org. I said webpage like an old man. Website, thechangingtides.org. Let's continue to change the tides on mental health. We got